My beloved child, pause for a moment and breathe this in, because what you are about to understand is not random, not delayed, and not forgotten. Finally, the truth you have been waiting for is rising to the surface, and something huge is waiting for you in this very revelation. You thought the silence meant nothing was happening. You wondered why there were no signs, no proof, no dramatic confession, no sudden clarity. But exposure does not arrive with noise, it arrives with timing. And the timing is now. Don't skip this moment, because what unfolds from here will shift how you see your past forever. There were nights when you questioned yourself more than you questioned them. You replayed conversations. You analyzed texts. You searched your own heart for faults you did not commit. And in that confusion, you carried a weight that was never yours to carry. You tried to understand what went wrong, where the shift began, why warmth turned cold without warning. You blamed your tone, your needs, your expectations. You wondered if you were too much or not enough. But listen carefully. What is being exposed now is not for revenge, not for drama, not for humiliation. It is for clarity. Stay till the end, because this clarity will feel like a door unlocking inside your soul. The truth about your ex is not a shocking headline or a scandalous secret. It is deeper than that. It is the quiet unveiling of patterns you once ignored, the inconsistency you excused, the promises that felt beautiful but never fully landed, the apologies that sounded sincere but never changed behavior. You sensed it back then, didn't you? A subtle discomfort you pushed aside because you wanted love to work. You silenced your intuition to protect the connection. And that is why this exposure is so powerful. It confirms that your inner voice was never wrong. What is being revealed now may come through conversations you overhear, unexpected messages, mutual friends speaking honestly, or even simple reflection when the emotional fog clears. Suddenly, pieces align. Things that once confused you begin to make sense. You see how certain stories did not match actions. You notice how effort was selective. You understand that what felt like distance was not caused by your sensitivity but by their inability to meet you at your depth. This realization will not break you. It will free you. Do you feel that shift already? That quiet release in your chest. That is the beginning of exposure. Not loud, not chaotic, just undeniable. The truth does not rush, it settles. And when it settles, it brings peace. Something huge is waiting for you in this peace, a version of yourself that no longer chases explanations. For a long time, you thought closure had to come from them. You imagined a final conversation where they admit everything, where they finally say, "You were right." But closure was never meant to be handed to you by the same hands that confused you. It was meant to be revealed through growth. And now, as their true nature becomes clear, through their repeated cycles, their new relationships reflecting old patterns, their inability to sustain what they once promised, you begin to see the full picture. The exposure is not about their downfall. It is about your awakening. There is something almost sacred about realizing you were not crazy, that your standards were not unrealistic, that your desire for consistency was not demanding. You were asking for alignment. And when alignment is absent, the connection eventually reveals itself. This is that moment. Don't skip it. Sit with it. Let it wash over you. Because the truth does not just expose them, it restores you. You may notice that the same traits that hurt you are now visible to others. The charm that once captivated you now appears shallow. The confidence that once felt secure now reveals insecurity beneath it. And instead of feeling anger, you feel distance. That emotional distance is healing. It means you are no longer entangled in illusions. Exposure is not about public proof, it is about private understanding. There was a time when you would have rushed to defend them. Even after the separation, you protected their image in your mind. You highlighted their good qualities. You minimized the pain. But now the balance returns. You see both sides clearly. You remember the moments you felt unseen. You remember how your needs were postponed. You remember how you carried the emotional labor alone. And instead of bitterness, you feel wisdom forming. Stay till the end, because this is where everything shifts. When truth surfaces, it creates space. And space invites something new. As their mask dissolves in your perception, your future expands. The energy once tied to confusion becomes available for clarity. The attention once fixed on what went wrong now turns toward what is possible. Something huge is waiting for you beyond this exposure, and it begins with self-trust. You trusted them once. Now you trust yourself. That is the transformation. You no longer need validation from the person who misunderstood you. You no longer seek explanations from someone who avoided honesty with themselves. The exposure has already done its work. It has shown you that the ending was not a failure, it was protection. Look back for a second, not to relive pain, but to recognize growth. See how much stronger you are now. See how your boundaries are clearer. See how your standards feel solid instead of negotiable. That is not coincidence. That is evolution. And evolution often requires revelation. The truth about your ex is surfacing not to pull you backward, but to propel you forward. You might hear something soon that confirms everything. Or you may simply wake up one morning and feel indifferent where there used to be ache. Both are forms of exposure. Because the greatest revelation is realizing you deserve better without needing proof of why the old chapter failed. Don't skip this realization. Let it anchor inside you. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. And that understanding is priceless. It closes doors without slamming them. It ends chapters without bitterness. It clears your vision without hardening your heart. As the truth becomes visible, you will notice something surprising: gratitude. Not for the pain, but for the lesson. Not for the confusion, but for the clarity that followed. You will understand that some connections enter your life not to stay, but to reveal what cannot stay. And once that revelation completes its purpose, peace arrives. Something huge is waiting for you beyond this exposure. A love that does not require decoding, a connection that does not fluctuate with moods, a presence that feels stable instead of uncertain. But before that can fully arrive, you needed this confirmation. You needed to see that what ended was not meant to continue. You needed to recognize that your heart was never the problem. The exposure of your ex is not dramatic. It is precise. It aligns memories with truth. It dissolves doubts. It returns your power. And when power returns quietly, it changes everything. You stop romanticizing what hurt you. You stop revisiting conversations hoping for different outcomes. You stop shrinking your expectations to fit someone else's limitations. Pause here and feel the difference. There is no urgency in your chest. No panic about missing out. No fear that they were the only one. That calm certainty is evidence. It means the illusion has lifted. It means clarity has arrived. Stay till the end of this message, because this is only the beginning of a new chapter. The exposure is the bridge. On one side is confusion. On the other side is self-respect. You are crossing now. In the coming days, you may notice more subtle confirmations. Patterns repeating in their life. Stories that no longer impress you. Behavior that mirrors exactly what you once endured. And instead of feeling wounded, you feel validated. That validation is not about ego. It is about truth aligning with reality. My beloved child, understand this deeply. When someone cannot meet you where you stand, the separation is not loss. It is redirection. And when their true colors become visible, it is not punishment. It is protection for your future. You are not behind. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are being repositioned. The exposure of your ex is clearing the path for something healthier, deeper, and more aligned with who you are becoming. Don't skip this season of clarity. It is shaping the next chapter in ways you cannot yet see. Something huge is waiting for you, not because someone else failed, but because you learned. And learning changes everything. The moment you accept the truth without resistance, you unlock a new level of peace. So let the truth stand. Let the mask fall. Let the illusion dissolve. You do not need confrontation. You do not need confession. You have confirmation. And confirmation is enough. This is part 1 of your awakening. The exposure has begun, not outside, but within you. And what you discover next will redefine not just how you see them, but how you see yourself. Stay with this unfolding, because the next revelation will take you even deeper into the freedom you have been quietly moving toward all along. There is a moment when the fog clears so quietly that you almost miss it, and this is that moment for you right now. What is unfolding is not random coincidence, it is alignment. In part 1, you felt the first shift, the realization that the confusion was never yours to carry. But now, something deeper is surfacing. The exposure is no longer subtle. It is undeniable. Don't skip this, because what you are about to recognize will change the way you remember everything. You once believed that time would erase the questions. Instead, time sharpened them. You thought distance would blur the details. Instead, distance clarified them. And now, with surprising precision, the truth about your ex is revealing itself in ways you never expected. It might be through patterns repeating in their new connections. It might be through words they speak that sound eerily familiar. It might be through the sudden realization that what you endured was not unique to you. It was a cycle. And that cycle was never yours to fix. Stay till the end, because this is where something powerful clicks into place. You were not difficult to love. You were simply ahead of where they were. Emotionally, you were ready for depth when they were still comfortable with surface. You were offering consistency while they were still negotiating commitment with themselves. And now that you can see this clearly, the exposure feels less like drama and more like divine clarity. There was a time when you thought losing them meant losing your chance at happiness. But what if losing them was actually the protection you prayed for in moments of silent doubt? What if every unanswered message, every canceled plan, every vague excuse was quietly guiding you away from a future that would have drained you? This is the shocking revelation. What felt like rejection was redirection. What felt like heartbreak was preparation. Something huge is waiting for you, and this exposure is clearing the final emotional attachment that kept you looking backward. You may notice something unexpected happening inside you. The urge to check on them fades. The curiosity about their life softens. The need for validation dissolves. In its place comes something steady, self-respect. That is not small. That is monumental. Because when you stop seeking answers from someone who never fully gave you truth, you reclaim your power in a way that cannot be reversed. And here is the once-in-a-lifetime realization. The version of you that loved them so deeply was never weak. That version was strong, open, generous, and sincere. The exposure is not showing you that you were foolish, it is showing you that you were authentic. They could not match that authenticity, and instead of admitting it, they created confusion. Now the confusion is gone. Now the mask has fallen in your perception. And when perception changes, everything changes. Don't skip this understanding. Let it sink in. You were carrying potential that required someone ready, someone stable, someone aligned. Your ex may have admired you, may have cared in their own limited way, but they were not prepared to sustain what you were building. And that is not a judgment, it is a truth that sets you free. As more clarity arrives, you might see how they portrayed themselves differently than who they truly were. Maybe they mirrored your dreams in the beginning. Maybe they spoke about forever before understanding what forever requires. Maybe they promised growth without committing to it. And now, through observation and reflection, you see the gaps. Not to criticize, not to resent, but to understand. Stay till the end, because this is where the story turns in your favor completely. The exposure is not about proving them wrong, it is about proving your intuition right. Every uneasy feeling you ignored. Every moment you felt something was off but convinced yourself to stay patient. Every time you shrank your needs to keep peace. Those moments are lining up now like puzzle pieces forming a clear picture. And that picture says one thing: you deserve better alignment. There is a calm power in recognizing that you were the emotionally available one. You were the communicator. You were the one willing to reflect and adjust. And instead of feeling superior, you feel grateful. Grateful that you know how to love in a healthy way. Grateful that you can give without manipulation. Grateful that you can commit without playing games. That gratitude is a sign of healing. Something huge is waiting for you beyond this realization. Not just another relationship, but a connection that does not require you to decode mixed signals. A love that does not fluctuate between warmth and withdrawal. A presence that feels steady, not conditional. But before that arrives, you needed to see clearly why the past could not continue. The exposure is your emotional closure. And here is the most surprising part: as the truth about your ex becomes obvious, you may no longer feel anger. You may feel compassion, because you understand now that they were operating from their own limitations. They gave what they were capable of giving. It just was not enough for the life you are meant to live. That understanding removes bitterness. It replaces it with maturity. Don't skip this transformation. This is not just about them being exposed. It is about you being elevated. Your standards are no longer negotiable. Your boundaries are no longer flexible for the sake of comfort. Your heart is still open, but it is wiser. And wisdom changes who gets access to you. In the coming days, more confirmations may appear, small signs that reinforce everything you are realizing now. Maybe a conversation reveals inconsistency. Maybe an observation confirms a pattern. Maybe silence itself speaks louder than any explanation. And instead of feeling shaken, you feel steady. That steadiness is proof that you have moved forward internally. Stay till the end of this unfolding, because this chapter is not about loss, it is about positioning. The exposure of your ex is aligning you with a future where you do not have to beg for clarity. You do not have to compete for attention. You do not have to question your worth. The confusion is over. The truth is visible. And once truth is visible, you cannot unsee it. That is the gift hidden inside this exposure. It sharpens your vision for what comes next. It refines your expectations. It strengthens your trust in yourself. You are no longer the person who tolerated uncertainty. You are becoming the person who requires alignment. Something huge is waiting for you on the other side of this awareness. Not chaos, not drama, but peace so deep it feels unfamiliar at first. Peace that does not need constant reassurance. Peace that feels like home. The exposure is complete in your heart now. You understand. You see. You accept. And acceptance is powerful. It closes the chapter gently but firmly. It frees your energy. It opens your future. What comes next will surprise you even more. Because once you release what was misaligned, space is created for something extraordinary. And that extraordinary beginning is closer than you think. Stay with this journey, because the next revelation will not just expose the past, it will introduce the future you have been unknowingly preparing for all along. Right when you thought the story was over, the final layer began to unfold in a way you never expected. This is not coincidence. This is completion. The exposure you have been witnessing is reaching its most powerful point, not outside of you, but within you. Don't skip this moment, because what you are about to realize will close the chapter in a way that feels almost unreal. There was always a part of you that sensed something was unfinished. Not unfinished with them, but unfinished within yourself. You carried invisible questions. Why did it feel so intense at the beginning? Why did it fade without clear reason? Why did you feel so deeply while they seemed to drift? Now the answers are surfacing, and they are simpler than you imagined. The connection was real, but the alignment was not. The emotions were genuine, but the foundation was unstable. And when foundation and future do not match, exposure becomes inevitable. Stay till the end, because this revelation changes everything. The truth about your ex is not just about who they are, it is about who you were when you met them. You were hopeful, you were open, you were ready for something meaningful. And instead of meeting someone at the same level of readiness, you encountered someone still discovering themselves. That difference created the gap you kept trying to bridge alone. Now you see it clearly. You were building forward, they were standing still. Something huge is waiting for you in this understanding. Because once you recognize that the mismatch was about timing and emotional capacity, not your worth, you stop internalizing the ending as a reflection of your value. You stop asking what you lacked. You start recognizing what you brought. Loyalty, depth, vision, commitment. Those qualities did not disappear when the relationship ended. They are still within you, refined and stronger. And here is the surprising twist. As their true patterns become more visible, you may feel a strange sense of relief instead of shock. Relief that you no longer have to decode mixed signals. Relief that you are no longer waiting for potential to turn into action. Relief that the version of love you imagined is still possible, just not with someone who could not sustain it. That relief is a sign that the exposure has done its work. There was a time when you would have defended them, even against your own intuition. You would have said, they are just stressed, or, they just need time. You gave grace. You gave patience. You gave understanding. But understanding without reciprocity slowly drains the heart. Now you see how much you gave, and instead of regret, you feel strength. Because giving from the heart is never weakness. It simply requires the right recipient. Don't skip this shift. This is where you detach completely, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in clarity. You understand now that love is not about convincing someone to show up. It is about recognizing who already does. The exposure of your ex is not meant to humiliate them, it is meant to illuminate the truth for you. And that truth is freeing. You may soon witness confirmations that solidify everything, conversations that reveal inconsistency, choices that mirror old patterns, outcomes that echo your past experience. And instead of feeling shaken, you feel affirmed. Because you are no longer emotionally entangled. You are observing from a place of growth. That distance is powerful. Stay till the end, because this final understanding holds a once-in-a-lifetime realization. The ending was not a loss of your future. It was the preservation of it. Imagine if you had stayed longer. Imagine if you had continued shrinking your needs. Imagine if you had accepted half-hearted effort as enough. The exposure is showing you what you avoided without even knowing it. You were redirected toward something healthier, something steadier, something aligned. Something huge is waiting for you, not in the form of sudden drama, but in the form of unexpected peace. Peace that does not fluctuate with someone else's mood. Peace that does not require constant reassurance. Peace that feels like certainty. And that certainty begins with you trusting yourself again. You trusted your heart when you loved them. Now trust your heart when it lets go. The same intuition that drew you in is the intuition now guiding you forward. You are not closing this chapter with confusion anymore. You are closing it with awareness. As the exposure completes its purpose, you may feel gratitude rising quietly. Gratitude for lessons. Gratitude for growth. Gratitude for clarity. Because without this experience, you would not recognize alignment when it arrives next. You would not value consistency the way you do now. You would not understand the difference between charm and character. Don't skip this final reflection. Look at how far you have come. The sleepless nights are fewer. The emotional weight is lighter. The memories no longer sting the same way. That is healing. That is transformation. That is you stepping into a higher version of yourself. And here is the most powerful truth of all. The exposure of your ex was never about exposing them publicly. It was about revealing the truth privately so you could move forward without doubt. You no longer romanticize what hurt you. You no longer question why it ended. You understand. Stay till the end of this unfolding journey, because what follows exposure is elevation. Your standards are clearer. Your boundaries are stronger. Your heart is open, but wiser. And when the next connection enters your life, you will recognize alignment instantly, not because you are guarded, but because you are aware. Something huge is waiting for you beyond this chapter. A connection that feels mutual. A love that feels stable. A presence that feels secure. But before that could arrive, this exposure had to happen. Not to break you, to build you. The story with your ex has revealed its truth. And now, as you stand in clarity, you realize something extraordinary. You did not lose them. You outgrew them. And that growth is leading you somewhere far greater than you once imagined.